action is the only answer to it. If it was 50 years, sorry, 50 years. Quick maths.
You are still brought up that you need to be a man's man. And as I got in, all of Ree's family was around the TV, and it literally just got announced. Devastating news for the British public this week.
Oh yeah.
Rest in peace, the Queen.
Yeah, R.I.P.
She passed away at the ripe old age of 96.
Mate, it's not bad stint, is it? That's 96. If you make it that far.
Her mum made it to like 100.
Oh really?
Do
you know what?
Considering her mum was born, her mum was born fucking in the early 1900s, like 1901 or 2 type thing, and the average age then would have been like 60, 50, I'd imagine. So I think she died in like the early 2000s, and she was over 100, I think. So her dad died young, obviously. Yeah. But that's crazy that her mum lived that long. Obviously, Philip lived till about 100 as well. He only died, last year or so?
Yeah, I don't know how old he was.
So they obviously have good healthcare, which is why they can.
Yeah, I can imagine being the royal family. It's not they're not being forced to wait in A&E if something goes wrong.
But it's crazy though. Even obviously we had the switch in Prime Minister, and literally a day or two before she died, she was still doing the meet and greet with Liz Truss. And did you see the pictures circulating of her then?
No.
She looked in like bad shape.
Oh, I saw the video where she was like, where they was like swearing Liz Truss in or something. And
Liz Truss's curtsy. Did you see that?
What? No, not that. I just saw when they shook hands.
When she entered the room, she goes like, but the people have memed it and put on like her head in a ball and stuff. You know what Twitter's like.
Internet never fails, does it?
No, she looked rough, and so for her to still be doing her duty, I think it's pretty cool at that fucking age when you are pretty much on death's door. Just a lot of dedication. Second longest monarch ever in the world.
In the world? I know it's the longest one in England I've ever had it.
By some way, Louis, French monarch. He did like 72. She did 70. Yeah. But it's crazy. What is your thoughts on the royals?
I'm not really too into the royal family. I can appreciate what they do for us as a country, in terms of they bring a lot of tourism in, and it's good to have that like heritage, but it doesn't really it doesn't impact my day-to-day life. Like I don't get all into it when I see him in the news, and like my sister cried when on fucking Thursday.
Did you not?
No, like, it's upsetting. Don't get me wrong. It's like someone's mum, someone's nan has passed away, but I wasn't like, a great nan, yeah. But I wasn't sitting there like distraught.
Yeah, I'm the same. Like my mum really likes them, considering we're not actually from. Obviously, we're from South Africa, but we're part of the Commonwealth, so she's our queen anyway. But my mum's very big on like, she loves the work they do, and we've had debates before where I've said that they have a pretty cushy life because they don't pay for anything, etc. And she'd be like, oh, but they sacrifice their whole life doing tours of the world and meet and greets and public events and charity events and stuff, which is true. But I'm in no way like a royalist. I don't really. Like you, they don't really impact my life. They are what they are. They bring a lot of tourism into the country. I don't love the royals. I don't hate the royals. They're just sort of there.
Yeah, just indifferent. It does, yeah.
But I did when I arrived home from work on Thursday, and as I got in, all of Ree's family was around the TV, and it literally just got announced. And it was like obviously Ree was upset. Mum was a bit upset, not because they love the royals so much. It's just that fact of like. The only queen all of us have ever known pretty much is now dead. Yeah. And it's feeling sorry for their family and stuff, because you're in the public eye. Like Charles is then, he did a statement Friday night, didn't he? An address on BBC where he said like, thanked her for her service, said how heartbreaking it is, blah blah blah. And I just think like, if your mum's just died, you want to just be fucking locked away somewhere grieving. And it reminded me of when Diana died. Do you remember you must have seen like the videos and shit of William and Harry as literally early teens / kids having to walk down the street with the funeral parlour. And for like kids, that's their mum, and they're still in the public eye straight away after their mum's death. Like that aspect of it is sad.
in those photos and that as well, they're not even crying at all, which I think is mad. It's like you're obviously they're trained to like, but I mean, down when they was walking down that thing, they weren't. But it's like they're probably trained from day dot that it's like you've got to be strong no matter what. You can't ever like not show weakness is the wrong word, but I think it was quite mad though is the fact they are like that. But if they were to act a little bit more human, for want of a better word, public would probably like sympathise with, not sympathise, yeah, sympathise with him a little bit, or feel a little bit more connected to him. Whereas it is like obviously he's got his duty to fulfil now, and that's what he's meant to be doing. But it's mad, yeah. Like his mum's passed away a few hours ago, and he's just standing there, almost like it looks emotionless. I know that the words were kind, and it seemed like a heartfelt message, but
he did crack towards the end though. He in that address he was very like professional and very but at the end I think when he said something about her being up there with Papa. His obviously Philip, and towards the end of that address, you could see that there was tears in his eyes, and he must have been like holding back the emotion, but it came out at the end, and I just think it's fucked. And he's now. I saw a tweet, a post. I don't know if you've seen it. He like when he's signing the declaration, which I think he did on Saturday. He wants someone to get something off the table, and he like is going to them like move it, and apparently he grits his teeth at them or something. And people were moaning about it, saying like, "Oh, this is horrible. How can you speak to someone like that?" And someone was just like, "His mum's just died 2 days ago, and he's in the public eye. Yeah. Forgive him for fucking gritting his teeth and getting angry at someone who hasn't, because he was trying to sign something and something was in the way." And the person was like, "Oh, look how he speaks to his legal aid or his aide," and I was just thinking, "Shut up, man! Like, how would you behave if your fucking mum had just died?"
Yeah, like, you said, saying like you're indifferent about the royal family. Your mum's got a point. It's like they are. If you're born into that, it's not your choice to be born into it. But it's like with the whole Harry and Meghan thing. Although they're not part of the royal family anymore, and they are still like their life is under scrutiny constantly. You can't ever escape it. But I suppose like if you're a celebrity of some sort, you can probably go off the radar. People forget about you and that. But like if you're a royal family, that's it. You've got to be seen to be acting perfect all the time. And if you're not, like when Harry was younger, he went not off the he was just being a normal teenager to be fair, wasn't he? But went off the rails a little bit.
Dressed up as a Nazi, didn't he? At a Halloween party.
That's just reminded me of. Have you ever seen a program called Fresh Meat with Jack Whitehall and that? And Jack Whitehall, yeah, he dresses up as a Nazi, and they're like, "What is it with posh people dressing up as Nazis?"
Yeah, he did. Yeah, but someone like Harry, he will eventually go under the radar though, because he's not in that line of like Charles' siblings. You don't really hear about Andrew now because of that nonce stuff, because of all that. Before that, he's got 2 brothers and a sister. Obviously, Anne goes to, I think she's always seen at the Scottish rugby games, because each of them supports like Will, I think was Prince of Wales, wasn't he? So he used to always go to the Wales rugby matches. She goes to the Scotland ones, but their siblings are not publicised at all. It's only him now because he's going to be the king, and I think the same will happen with obviously Will. He'll stay in the limelight once his oldest son gets a bit older. People will then start publicising the oldest son because he's going to be our future king. And when that happens, I do think that perhaps Harry will. He's only the brother. Do you know what I mean? He's not actually going to get to the throne.
Yeah, true.
And before that whole thing happened with Andrew, when's the last time anyone heard about him? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That they can slip off in that aspect, but they won't because it's Harry and Meghan. They now get slated because they're together, and they're getting slated all the time. So that's potentially a reason why he'd stay in the limelight, for people hating on him. But
you're saying that, but then it's still. Although yeah, fair enough. That whole he got caught. Did he actually get caught? I know it's because there was like behind closed. Was it? What's the word? Settlement. It was like out of court settlement. Yeah, that's it. Out of court settlement.
It was the Epstein.
Yeah, I know that, yeah.
So I don't really know what. I think it's still ongoing.
Is it? Cause
I think the investigation is still ongoing. There was a settlement here, I swear, but I thought I read something about it still being investigated over in the States.
What, him being investigated? Because I know the whole case is still pretty open, but because with the person that was accusing him, I think they reached an out of court settlement in the UK. I don't know if it applies in general, like she can't pursue him anymore as a result of that. But yeah, that's fucked up. But didn't he Didn't he lose?
He's lost his royal titles.
Yeah.
So is Harry and Meghan. So,
But Harry and Meghan lost them because they decided that was kind of personal choice. This one fucked up and got caught doing some very bad things.
yeah, so he's not actually a royal. It's funny that, though, you were saying, obviously we were speaking about Charles. I saw something the other day that he wants to strip back royal titles.
Oh, really?
To be more, you know how you said about, if they were a bit more emotional, showed emotion, you might, what was the word you used, relate to them a bit more. He said something previously, I don't think he said it since he became king, he said it previously, that he appreciates that there's a animosity with some of the British public, that the fact that they pay for all of these people to live a fantastic life, and if you have royal titles you get taxpayer money. So what he wants to actually do is strip back royal titles so that it's literally just like the king and their or queen and their partner, and then their kids and their kids type thing, rather than, you know, you have so many dukes and duchesses of all these areas and they get taxpayer money. He wants to basically strip off the, for want of a better word, irrelevant ones that aren't really in that actual tight royal family, and he wants it to just be the royal family so that they're spending less taxpayer money to keep everything. So nothing will change for him.
Yeah,
and
it's a bit elitist, that, isn't it? It's
but I get the thought behind it is that he wants to, that taxpayer money can be used elsewhere if they're not paying for all these dukes. You know, like Mike Tyndall.
Yeah,
he's married to
Zara.
Yeah,
Princess Zara, innit?
Yeah, and do you know what I mean? There's so many of them, and they all get taxpayer money, I think. So he wants to strip that back to sort of show the British public, or appease the British public a bit more in terms of having to use their spend to fund the royals' lifestyle.
Yeah, fair.
Which is quite cool, because it shows that he's, although they're very, very far removed from regular life, he obviously knows and is very aware that a lot of the British public aren't happy about them living that regal life on taxpayer money.
So it's a grey area, I suppose, isn't it? Because like if you're related to the royal family, it's a bit.
Yeah, where do you cut it off?
It's exactly. It's like, well, so if you say he goes down kids after kids, and it's like, oh, I don't know, your brother or whatever, it's like, well, does he lose it then? Just because he's not, or he or she's not going to become king.
I think how it would probably work is. He didn't say this, I didn't read into it that much depth, this is just me saying, I imagine how it would work is, say it started with Charles, both his kids get royal titles, William, who's going to be the next king, his kids will get royal titles, but Harry's kids won't, and then William's oldest son, who's going to be king, and their siblings, so all of William's kids, get royal titles, but then their kids don't, only the next king, his kids get royal titles. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you've got 3 kids, they'll all get royal titles, but then only the one that succeeds you, their children will get royal titles and the others won't. Because if you did it that way and that would just happen again, it would fan out. Everyone's kids got them. And that's how it got to how it is today. But interesting to see if he does it or not.
It's going to create a lot of animosity in the old the Christmas. Imagine Christmas dinner around there.
Granddad says you've got to work for your money. You've got to get a job.
Guys will sit at the table. Fuck off. You're not royal.
I read something crazy though about this royal family topic. Right? Do you know what Nostradamus is?
No.
So, it's Nostradamus, The Complete Prophecies for the Future. It's a book that was first published back in, I think it was something like 85, 82. And there was another one made in like 2015 as well, which was a bit updated. And basically, it's a book that has predicted the future since that date for the next couple of 100 years.
It's actually got things right.
Well... I don't know if this is from the 82 one or the 2015 one, but just listen to this passage, it's from the book. This quatrain will come as no surprise to British people, and it has wide implications. The first is that the Queen Elizabeth II will die circa 2022 at the age of around 96, 5 years short of her mother's term in life. Prince Charles will be crowned in her stead and become King of the Islands. The implication here being that he is no longer king of other regions in the world which his mother reigned over, such as Canada, Australia, New Zealand, which would have in the interim become republics. Prince Charles will be 74 years old in 2022 when he takes over the throne, but the resentments held against him by a certain proportion of British population following the divorce from Diana, Princess of Wales, will still persist. The pressure on him is so great, and his age so much against him, that Charles agrees to abdicate in favour of his son. The question is which son, for in the last line Nostradamus makes it very clear that a man will replace him who never expected to be king. Does this mean that Prince William, who would have expected to succeed his father, is no longer in the picture, and that Prince Harry, by process of default, becomes the next king in his stead? This would make him King Henry the whatever, aged just 38.
Fuck, mate, that's creepy. That's like conspiracy
What's
theory.
mad about that is it predicts that the Queen will die in 2022, which happened, and it mentions that she'll die 5 years earlier than what her mum did. So if that was the 82 one, they've not only just predicted the Queen's death, they've predicted the Queen Mother's death and got it right both times. So and I mean, the thing about Canada, Australia, New Zealand, when the Queen became Queen, they weren't republics probably, and they have been. They're now countries.
Yeah, they're still part of the Commonwealth, though, aren't
They're
they?
part of the Commonwealth, yeah. So that's crazy because they've predicted that exactly right. So does that mean that the next part is right as well about Charles and William and whatnot? Because can you imagine? But I don't get how, in what circumstance that could happen. In what circumstance? Let's say he did abdicate and this thing actually gets correct. In what circumstance would they choose Harry and not William? It would only be if either William died or William said, "I don't want to."
Yeah, but even then, I don't know how it works, but wouldn't technically it would go to Will's son? Because I don't think there's an age cap on. It's not like behind a bottle of beer.
No, I don't think it works like that. I think you have to pass it to one of your children. So if he can't pass it to Will, then it would go to Harry.
It has to. It can't.
And then it would go to Harry's kids. I don't think so.
Oh, fair.
I mean, maybe back in the day, but I don't think that's how it works. So God knows if that's going to happen. I mean, hopefully it doesn't, but that would be crazy. And the fact that they predicted the Queen dying at that age is crazy. Have you never heard of that book?
No, man, that's pretty creepy.
I've got stuff wrong, obviously, but I've read of a load of things before that got so it says here, page 98 was published in 2006. So they predicted that in 2006 that she'd die in 2022.
Shit. That's probably where the Simpsons get all their information from, innit?
They're known for that as well. But that's crazy though to predict. The thing is though, if you made like 100 wild predictions and one was right and 99 was wrong, everyone would look at the one that was right and be like, "Fuck, he predicted that." So I don't know what else is in the book or what else is predicted. I remember seeing loads of stuff previously that they'd got right, but I imagine there's still tons of stuff that they haven't got right.
Oh yeah, there's probably so much wrong shit in there, isn't there?
Mm. But you also have the opposite though, like in sport, for example. If a professional sportsman has a fantastic game, carries well, kicks well, passes well, whatever, tackles well, but then fuck up one pass or fuck up one kick, they focus on the one kick and not all the good things.
That's actually right. I've just realised it's the opposite way round. It's the opposite way round. It's not negativity bias. I'm actually going to have to look that up because that's winding me up.
You probably do get fucking sociopaths who do 100 things wrong and only focus on the one right thing they did too. You probably do get people like that.
But there's a term for it and I can't remember what it is.
But yeah, man, with the Queen as well, what I find so cool is that she took over at such a young age and has done it for so long. Like, whether you like rules or not, I just think people do need to recognise that it was a long fucking time. And they don't really get a life. While I say, and I agree with the fact that they have a cushy life, not having to work, not having to get jobs, get tax-paying money, it's also the fact that you don't really get a life. They do have to do a lot of stuff, charity events, social events, travelling around the Commonwealth, etc. So your life is sort of not really your life.
I can't imagine on a Sunday they're like, "Oh fuck this!" Do you know what? I'll sit in and watch EastEnders instead. They can't. You can't.
Or they're not gonna. Oh, I feel hanging today. Can't come to that charity event. Sorry.
Just needs a cup of paracetamol. It is. It's a long thing. You think like it's mad if someone works. To say you finish your education or whatever at 18, and you work up until your average retirement age is probably like 68 now. You do that. I can't figure that out. 60 years in work, and she done 70 odd.
That would not be 60 years, by the way.
50 years, sorry, 50 years. Quick maths.
But yeah, and she took over in her early 20s and went till fucking
do like fulfilling her duties.
And she did say in that, when she took over, didn't she, there's that quote where she says like, I will serve the British public until the day I die type thing. And I always said, like I said to my mum even the other day, when I saw that, obviously before her health deteriorated, when I saw her at that Liz Truss meeting, obviously we didn't know that she was going to die, of course, that was on sort of Monday or Tuesday. And I literally, looking at her, I just said like to my mum, fuck me, like, would she not want to abdicate, pass the crown over and have her last couple of years of like peace, chilling, like, do you know what I mean, rather than still having to do those things? And she was just like, no, they literally take the oath that they will. I think Charles said the same thing. He was like, I'll try and serve the British people to the best of my ability until the day I die. And it is commendable, but again, not that I don't really care that much about them. I also don't get why people hate them so much.
That's like the whole fucking, people just love to be offended by shit, don't they? It's the social injustice. They're like, there's actually, just be like, if you really don't like care for them that much, just be indifferent about it. Like, cool, they're not going out of their way to upset you. People that just get wound up about everything.
It's with, like, I saw a post saying, people post about, oh yeah, look at this thread, you know, the amount of tyranny that the British put other countries through during Queen Elizabeth's reign. What? And that was her decision. Like when she got into power of being the Queen, government was the thing. Winston Churchill was the Prime Minister. The royal, I don't know what back in the day when fucking Henry VIII walked the earth, yeah, the king and the royal family made a lot of the decisions. I don't get what these people think the royal family do. Like, when we invade a country or we do something, that's not the Queen saying, right, mobilise the troops, let's go. That's the government making that decision. Do you know what I mean? Because when she come in, obviously, it had just been World War II, where it's not fucking, it wasn't her father making decisions that we need to go and fight the Germans. It was the fucking government. It was Winston Churchill and the other MPs, etc. Yeah. What do they think the Queen makes decisions on in that regard?
They still have to give the go-ahead though, don't they? They can't, although it's kind of like, it's more of a formality than anything. They're not going to say no, but it's like all new laws passed, whoever is head of whatever at that time, it has to be like, is it okay? Yeah.
But they say yes. Yeah, the only answer is yes. Yeah. They can't go against. They're not allowed to be politically involved in that regard. They're not allowed to have a preference over Conservatives, Labour, etc. They have to just have an open book, and whatever Prime Minister come in, whatever political party comes in, they just have to cooperate and just
negotiate their wages for the next 4 years with the taxpayers' money.
The big contract. But I just don't get it, man. And people, I saw a tweet as well of someone said, quick, while the British public are all rattled by the Queen's death, every country needs to go and take their artefacts back from British museums. As if every museum in the world doesn't have artefacts from other countries in the world, you know what I mean? And people, it is, like you said, I hate that whole thing of people being offended on behalf of others. You're offended because something happened under the Queen's reign 60, 70 years ago, before you were born, before your parents were born. Your grandparents are probably alive, doubt they were affected by that. Do you know what I mean? Get over it.
Yeah, nice.
Every country has done fucked up shit. Like, the people still hate Germany for World War II? No, not really. I don't get why people have that view of, well, you know, Britain or this country did this to, you know, my country 200 years ago. I now hate them.
People love to hate England, to be fair, though, don't they?
It's fashionable. Yeah. Same as you can tell after the Queen's death, it's fashionable for people to try and joke about it and people to try and bring up stuff that they've done. Do you know someone called, I think it's Trevor Sinclair? He's an ex-football player pundit. He tweeted a post basically saying how terrible the royal family is and how, you know, under the Queen, XYZ happened to other countries. And people dug up old posts from him bigging up the royal family and bigging up the Queen. So he's literally changed his opinion just to say something that's going to get out there, to be fashionable, to be seen as, oh, I hate the monarchy, etc. And people dug up so much old shit. It was just like, you literally don't have this opinion because for the last 10, 15 years you've posted highly about the Queen, highly about the royal family, and it's just fashionable. People love to be seen as, oh, I hate England. It's the same with rugby. Obviously, we've spoken about it before, not on the podcast, but when the Six Nations comes on, every Tom, Dick and Harry in England goes and dusts off their Scottish rugby shirt or their Welsh rugby shirt and supports Wales, Ireland or Scotland instead of England, because they've got like one great grandparent from that country and they then claim to be Scottish or claim to be Welsh or claim to be anything but English. And I just think, what are you doing?
Yeah, I suppose it doesn't help. It doesn't help in the fact that it's the own country, it ridicules itself. Not like it's that's British culture in a sense, so in it just rinse yourself. But yeah, no, the whole people being offended by, like you said, this fucking shit that happened so long ago. But these people, you probably find like if you was just like, they put all these tweets out, do all these pictures and that, if you say to them like, just sit down and explain, be like, no, explain to me like what is so wrong. Tell me specifically how this has offended you, or get up and actually do something about it. Go try and make some changes. They'll be like, I don't really want to. So fucking people's lives are just so shitty and unstimulated that they feel the need to jump on something and be like, I'm offended, because it is the most exciting thing that happens in their day.
Being offended on behalf of others who don't care a lot of the time as well. It's that culture now, though, this culture of all the bloody PC, political correctness and that is rammed down everyone's throats. And people do love to be offended on behalf of others, and a lot of the times in those situations, I guarantee the group of people they're offended on behalf of probably don't even care that much. You're just offended on behalf of them and they don't actually really give a crap. You know what I mean? It's just, it happens far too much. With so much though, it happens with everything.
And that's, I think a lot of these movements and that, they stem from, a lot of it stems from like well-meaning people that actually want to see a difference. And then, like I said, the people that just got boring fucking lives, nothing better to do, jump on it. I was listening to a podcast the other day. I won't say names just in case I get it wrong, like the actual name's wrong. But there was this guy on it. He was gay, and he was saying that like the whole LGBTQT thing. It's gone. He's like, it's gone mad. He's like, as a member of this community, he's like, it's fucked. Like how? So apparently now there's this huge charity that have done so much for gay rights and that, amazing. This charity has now come out and said that it is transphobic or homophobic or something if a gay man doesn't want to get with a trans woman. And he was just so basically saying, he was like, no, it's not that. It's like, you are a woman. It's being gay is very much about the fact that you're a man, you've got a penis. And it's like, but then that's kind of, it's almost for everything you fought for. This is, I suppose, this is kind of specifically to that sort of community, but everything they fought for in a sense of, so it's not to like extradite gays from community and things like that. You're kind of going back on it, because it's almost like trying to do, have you ever had gay conversion therapy?
Yeah.
It's like trying to do that again. It's like, oh no, because they're now transitioning into a man, you should like them regardless. And it's like, well, actually attraction's a lot deeper than just the fact that you are a man or you are a woman sort of thing.
I really hate that view as well though, because you're told if you don't like a person of a certain background or a certain colour or like that, if it's a trans woman or a trans man, and you're sort of told that you have to like that person. Like, you have a preference. Every person in the world has a preference on who they're attracted to. You're not entitled to have people that are attracted to you because you decide that they should. You can be attracted to whoever you fucking want. If you only like one type of specific person, then that is your preference. Why should you have to go for other people you aren't attracted to, or like with that trans example you just used? If like a trans woman who was a man that transitioned into a woman wanted to get with a straight man and the man didn't want to, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. That is his preference, and if you find someone who is okay with that and does want to get with you, then that's fine, go for that person because that's their preference. But it is rammed down your throat. And who is Caitlyn Jenner? Is the
one who used to be Bruce Jenner.
Bruce Jenner, yeah, Caitlyn Jenner. I see Caitlyn Jenner getting interviewed about it. And actually, I've seen on the same, I think it was Good Morning Britain or one of those shows, I've seen it, or This Morning, I've seen another trans man that transitioned into a woman saying very similar things, that they were just like, I don't like the LGBTQ plus community, they force things. What they don't like is she was saying that, you know, the ones that aren't actually trans but just wake up one day and decide that they want everyone to call them a man or a woman or vice versa, non-binary, gender fluid. And Caitlyn Jenner was just like, we have gone through so much, like the LGBT community, so much to get accepted into certain places, and we've worked so hard on getting rights, and obviously Caitlyn is a public figure, so she's doing it on a massive platform to the world, really. And she was like, that stuff is damaging, that stuff doesn't help. I would not call you a woman just because you've decided blah 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 one day. And the thing is, that's okay for her to say because she's a trans woman, but no one else could view that opinion, no one else could slate them. She feels comfortable saying it because she's a trans woman and she's part of that community. But what she was saying, I can't remember exactly what it was, but she was basically just saying that the people that behave that way is really damaging to what we're trying to do, and it's really damaging to our community, and I don't associate myself with those types of people. Don't get me wrong, if you are like a man and you want to transition to a woman but you don't have the money, or because I don't think you can get it done on like not the NHS or for free.
I think you can, under certain circumstances, you can get it done in the NHS.
So say you can't get it done on the NHS and you have to pay for it and it's expensive. If you are planning to transition and you just can't afford it or whatever, then I respect that. You know what I mean? You can call them a woman, call them a man, whatever they want to identify as. But again, what annoys me and what Caitlyn Jenner was saying, it is the people that just decide, today I'm a woman, tomorrow I'm a man, today I'm... without actually wanting to transition into that other person. And she basically just said, like, that isn't what being trans is, that isn't this. You know, I grew up uncomfortable in my body for years, feeling like I wanted to be someone else, and I eventually plucked up the courage to do it on a global scale, you know. And she was just like, but you doing that it's not the same, and it's damaging basically. And it is rammed down your throat, the PC with it.
It's like there's a few that ruin it for so many that have probably gone through shit their entire lives, and it just becomes this all of a sudden. And then if you have that opinion, then you're the arsehole all of a sudden. It's actually, you know, now it is, if you're white and gay, a gay white man, you're almost like an honorary straight person because you have white gay privilege. So it's like, if you can't be white and gay and have, like, it can't be difficult sort of thing. It's mad. Imagine that, like, you stuck up with shit your whole life.
Probably been bullied.
Yeah, all of that.
You've gone through all the same shit.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, you don't actually know what it's like because you're white and gay. It's fucked. And people just take it to fucking extreme lengths, and it ruins it for so many people.
There is that one-upmanship constantly though of, I've been more oppressed than you, I've dealt with more shit with you because, like you just said, you're white, so you have that privilege at least. And what really does my head in is this sort of shit happens in the UK and like the US, first world countries, as if there aren't literally countries around the world still, Middle Eastern countries where being gay is illegal, and being gay can literally get you killed in some of these countries. Chechnya in Russia, do you remember a few years ago it was publicised that they had concentration camps for gays? Right, this shit is literally going on in the world, but rather than, you know, using resources and using that community to try and stop things around the world, you're complaining that someone's misgendered you, or you're complaining that this has happened to you in this country. And I get there are probably issues in every first world countries that can be better, and can make people of that community's life easier. But it does my head in when they moan and say they're horribly oppressed and this, that and the other. And I just think there's so many countries out there now where people who are gay or trans or whatever are treated horrifically. Like in this day and age, Chechnya had concentration camps for gays. I swear China does something with Muslims, yeah. Right? And Middle East, obviously, being gay can get you killed, etc. And that shit still goes on in the world. So why don't you put your energy and time, rather than pretending to be offended in this country, why don't they put their energy and time in trying to raise awareness in some of those other countries where shit is actually, it's barbaric. And the UK was probably like that once upon a time, like hundreds of years ago, do you know what I mean? And it still goes on in the world. So put your energy towards that rather than talking about your privilege and your being offended in this country, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It is obviously it's like you said, it's amazing the things that do happen, because if there wasn't all of these movements to start with, like where would we be still? But yeah, it's when it starts coming down to the fact that it's like you're saying, because you're white and you've got white gay privilege, it's like, no, that's bollocks. Look at these people. At the end of the day, it's like trying to, like you said, it's the one-upmanship. If two people are sad, but say your mate's dog died, and then you at that same time you got sacked, you're both sad. Like, it's not, oh, I should be sad because my dog's dead or something like that. Guess what? We're both fucking sad.
It's just nuts. It is nuts. Everyone's upset, and what everyone's gone through is different. Do you know what I mean? You can't tell anyone that what you've been through is harder than what they've been through, because they might feel things differently as well. Something that doesn't seem like a big deal to you may have been a massive deal to them, etc. And you don't know what people have gone through. So yeah.
I read a quote in a book once that said, it's like, if everyone put their problems in a pile, you take your own ones back. It's true. Like, if you was like 9 times out of 10, you're like, fuck that. Like, you wouldn't want to deal with someone else's issues. No. And you'd be like, oh, do you know what? Yeah, maybe my issues aren't. Well, actually, no. That's saying, not that saying issues aren't bad, but you wouldn't want to. Yeah, if you wouldn't want to take on someone else's, you'd be like, okay, yeah. I can't remember what got us onto that, kind of social injustice, wasn't it? But then saying that, so it's another thing. Have you ever heard of something called the hot cold empathy gap? So it's kind of like, basically, it's people can't imagine when you're boiling hot. You can't imagine what it's like to be cold, and it's meant to transfer over to like other aspects of life. So it's like, if you're really upset, you can't imagine what it's like to be happy, vice versa. And I suppose it transfers into that. It's like, if you become so outraged by something, you can't imagine what it's like to not be outraged by it. And the more you kind of go to one end of the scale, it becomes harder to associate yourself with the other end.
If you're sad or depressed, you can't imagine yourself being happy.
Yeah,
that is actually, I've never heard of that before, but that is actually true when you think about it. Like, when you've had a really good day, like say you've had the best day, you had a great day at work, you come back with your partner, you've had a really good evening, and you just feel really content. You don't sit there thinking, oh, tomorrow will be shit. You just focus on your happiness. And when you've had a shit day and you're feeling really depressed, you can't imagine then, being happy. I do get it. I think that's how, obviously, mental health and suicide's a massive issue for like young men in particular. And that is probably what happens. Because a lot of the time, people like that who obviously sadly commit suicide, they can't see their life getting any better. They're in a rut where they feel really depressed, really unhappy constantly, and they can't see a lot of the time that it's going to get better. They can't see how it's going to get better or when it's going to get better. And that's exactly what you're saying, is when you're in that rut, it's hard to then imagine, no, things are going to get better, my life will turn around, tomorrow will be better, type thing.
And yeah, that is it. Like you said, it's all, although like you kind of, when you look at it on bigger scale, it's like, tomorrow's a new day, things like that. But when you're in that situation, it's not, tomorrow isn't a new day, and you become so, you can't imagine what it's like to then be happy, and it spirals and spirals and spirals. I've never been depressed. I mean, I suppose I'm like privileged, for want of a better word for it. Like, I've never had to experience those. I do. Is it cisgender white male,
heterosexual male,
not living in poverty. Yeah, I've got far too many privileges, but so you don't know what it's like, and you can say to people like, okay, yeah, change your mindset and that, and it has to be a personal thing. You can't change someone's mind for them, although you can support them. But yeah, if you're in that state, you can't imagine what it's like to be in another state, and it just progressively can get worse and worse.
And it's, when you hear of obviously suicides or whatever, of people who have kids, your first instinct is always like, it's selfish to leave your kids. You've ended your pain, but you've created pain for the rest of your family. But again, it's easy to say that, and I do agree with that to an extent, because you've got so much to live for if you've got a family and kids, etc. But again, you don't know what they're going through, and you view things very differently to them. You can't actually understand, to make a decision like that to end it all, and you feel like it's not going to get any better. You don't know what that's like, because like you just said, I've not really been, obviously I've had down times, etc. But but like I've not been depressed like that, and I wouldn't know, you know, I've not gone through that, so you don't know how they're thinking or what they're feeling or why they take that decision. So yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Saying that about, I watched an interview with Tyson Fury. I don't know if you've seen it as well, because he thought about killing himself before, didn't he? And he said that, like, he's got a kid, and he's even gone in an interview and said, like, I had so much to live for, but he was like, I generally thought the world would be a better place without me. And I think they get to such a low point that they really do think, like, look, yes, I've got a wife, I've got kids, or vice versa, husband, kids, family, or whatever, but they don't think. They generally think, like, look, these people's quality of life, if I just disappear, yes, they might be upset for a bit, but like their overall quality of life is going to be so much better. It's fucked. Like, I couldn't ever imagine what it's like to be in that person's sort of like state of mind. It must be awful. But yeah, to get to that point where you're like, my life's so bad that the world's going to be better off without me.
That's why it's important talking about these things though as well, because particularly, like I said a minute ago, the suicide rate in like the UK, for example, in young men is really high, isn't it? Like the highest of any sort of age or demographic,
something
of men, and that's why it's important to speak about these things, because as men you're taught, even now you are, like, it's not as if only 20-30 years ago you were taught that men didn't show emotion, etc. As a boy growing up now, even like when we grew up, you're embarrassed to cry, you're embarrassed to show emotion, and you are still brought up that you need to be a man's man. You know, you get the piss taken out of you if you get upset about something, etc. And that's why it's so important to speak about it, because men grow up not really wanting to speak about their emotion, not wanting to show emotion, and then when something like that happens, you don't really know how to speak about it or communicate it, and you might not be at that point yet where you want to end it all, but you might just be feeling really depressed, and speaking about it might actually help, but you don't really know how to go about speaking about it, because it's tough to bring something like that up if it's not something if you had a dad that was like a man's man and brought you up with not showing emotion and not crying and getting on with things, and manning up is the phrase, right? Man up, grow a pair type thing. So it does need to be spoken about more, because I think that the suicide rate can definitely be reduced by people opening up, by more being done to, I don't know, publicise it, raise awareness, etc.
Yeah, but I think sometimes talking isn't enough. Unfortunately, like, people still go to therapy, but I think like a large part of that is, like you said, it's the way society is, and it's so polarizing, because it's like, on one end, yeah, okay, now these days men open up, do this, do that, but then you've got to be so empathetic, so show so much emotion, and then on the same token, you've still got to be that classic man that provides for their family, doesn't show any emotion, is the rock or whatever, and it's like, yeah, going hot to cold constantly. You don't know, and that's, people just don't know where they sit, and I think that could be one of the big reasons that fuck so many people up. Is like, I don't have a huge issue talking about my emotion, but I don't talk about them that much. Like, I don't see the need to personally, and I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing, but you can see, it's like, you'll get in the media, obviously media plays a big part in a lot of things, but it's like, so closed off or whatever, like they do something that's, he's not a man would never do that, and then they'll do something that kind of contrasts that, and then they're like, he's too emotional, he does this, like, an emotion, and it's like, well, fuck, what am I meant to be doing? And it's the pressure that society put on men to still be that man's man, and then at the same time be, if you was gonna like put in stereotype, be super feminine, like have that feminine energy about you, and then have all the masculine energy at the same time. Whereas, I don't know, because I'm not a woman, never have been one, but it doesn't seem that that's portrayed on the same side, that the women don't have to do that. They can kind of just get on with it. I'm not saying there isn't pressures from other aspects of life, but yeah, it's a lot of it is put into, and that's why I think it's because of the way society's moving. They want you to be well emotional, but at the same time, you've still got to be.
I think it helps having, for me anyway, it helps having because there's obviously, any time I'm feeling down about something, any time I'm feeling upset about something, we can just speak about it. And while I have a great relationship with my mum and could speak to my mum about things, I wouldn't necessarily come home each night and tell my mum about my shit day, or tell my mum what I'm feeling or whatever. And I wouldn't like text text a friend saying, "Oh, I had a really shit day today," type thing. Do you know what I mean? Whereas having you get home and you speak about your days, and it's very easy to then speak about these things and get them off your chest, and it does help. A lot of the time speaking about something, because if I get home grumpy and I've had a shit day, if I don't speak about it, I just find myself sulking all night, and I'm just there like fucking stumbling about. But then once you speak about it, but yeah, so it really does help, obviously, having Reed to speak about these things with. But you then also face the aspect of sometimes if I get home and she's had a really good day, I then don't want to say, "Oh, mine was shit and I'm feeling really down about X, Y, Z," because you don't want to bring that person's good mood down. So it's hard to find as well, even with that, the balance of, you don't want to just fucking, if they get home really happy or they've just got a promotion or something, whoever it is you're speaking about, you don't want to then lower the tone by complaining all the time. And if you find like that you work at a company that you fucking hate, most evenings when you get back, you will want to moan about your day, and you don't want to come home every day and put a dampener on the mood by moaning. So it's hard to find the balance, but speaking about things definitely does help.
Yeah, and that's like you said, you don't want to then become that emotional burden on someone if you don't want to be the person that I'm always moaning. It is, the thing is, I think, is that it is very good to get things off your chest and that, but then it does there must come a point, this isn't just isolated to men, it's isolated to everyone, that takes some sort of action. Then it's great, speak about it, but then come up with a plan that's, I'm not talking about like depression and things like that. I think that's something way beyond my scope of like knowledge. But
I mean, like, if you hate your job,
yeah, if you're all you're ever doing is moaning about your life, that you hate your living situation, you hate your job, you hate the relationships you're in, you hate, I don't know, fucking endless list of things, but all you ever do is moan and don't actually ever do anything about it. Yeah, there has to be a point where it's like, action is the only answers to it.
I agree. Cool. Heard it here first.
Yeah. That's it. We made it.
I was about to say, cheers. That is now in the top whatever percentage.
So we've made it past 90% of podcasts. 90% don't make it past.
And we've gone global now as well. We're getting viewers in Guernsey. I assume that's you, Dan Rice. So shout out, going global around the world.
Yeah, from Essex to Guernsey. Watch out.
And thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah. Episode 4 under wraps.
Cheers.
Cheers.